And now, a word from your professor.
Hello, everyone. This is your professor. I first wanted to again apologize for starting the class late. I didn't think the class was going to make, and then they let the class go through with only 8 people in it. So, I mean, good, because I'm very excited about teaching this class. Another reason is because this is experimental. Um, when I set out to do this kind of class, I wasn't aware of how little there was out there on doing these different kinds of flash writing. In other words, there's not a lot of instructional material out there on doing this kind of flash writing, which excites me because it means in some ways, we're striking into new territory here. Trying to do the academic research into this. It's just everybody talks about flash fiction as the only sort of flash that people do, with occasional people talking about flash nonfiction. So we're experimenting together. I think that's fun. So, having said that, I think we are going to commit ourselves to failing some in here. What I mean is, we're trying something that isn't all that common. And what I mean by we'll prepare to do a lot of failing is like, I think in education we have fetishized success. Now, the word fetish isn't just a sexual term, it's a little vocabulary for you. Anything, it comes from the idea of focusing on anything to the exclusion of all other things. So we have fetishized in education success to the point where we've made that the whole point of education. And sure, if you're building bridges, you're learning to build bridges. I hope that you would prize success. Or if you're planning to be a medical professional, again, success is pretty important there. So I understand there's some objective classes and education that require uh, objective things. It requires success in a very objectively defined way, and arriving at X marks the spot. However, that's not all of education. This is a creative writing class. As long as you try the things that I ask you to try in this class, writing wise, you'll get the A. So we can forget about the grade for a moment and focus on doing something creative. As long as you do the work. Now, don't have AI do it for you. I'm not an anti AI. I just wrote a book called Control Think, A Human Writer's Guide to AI, where I talk about using AI as a writing assistant. But I also talk a lot in that book about not letting AI do your thinking or your writing for you. First of all, it's writing. It can do grammatically correct writing for the most part, usually, depending on the bot. But a lot of it's pretty empty. I'm looking to hear from you, you know? So if you do the work I ask you to do in this class and you try your hand at it, then you're going to get the grade because we're all experimenting. On an adventure here together. Let's say that you're taking the 1,200 word piece and you cut it in half and you just butcher it and you're like, oh, this thing fell apart. Well, first of all, I'm going to encourage you to keep working on it. We're going to see it through to the bitter end because you can really learn from a failed draft. That's very valuable, actually. So we're not going to fetishize success in this class in terms of that you must perform well in your writing. If your writing ends up being a kind of a train wreck because you're trying something that's actually going to be a challenge, it's challenging. And if that's the case, then you've learned how not to write a story, and that's valuable. So um, yeah, we're gonna try and we're gonna fail and we're gonna succeed some too. Some of you are gonna write some stuff, or maybe all of you will write some stuff that you'll be like, wow, I had no idea that I had this inside me. That's so much fun when that happens. Now, one thing about flash writing we're going to try to do, and this distinguishes, this may help explain what flash writing is exactly. We're going to try really hard to, in our final drafts of these pieces, to have them be complete. What I mean is, some people think writing flash means just writing part of a story and then stopping arbitrarily because you've reached a word count. That's okay for a rough draft. If you start out that way, that's no problem. It's no problem if you end that way too, because remember, it's okay to fail. But what we're trying for is when we reach the final draft stage, we're trying for something that is complete in terms of whatever completeness means for that particular piece of writing. Now, you might go, but I want to bring in something as part of a larger thing I'm writing. That's no problem. But think in terms of if you read graphic novels, think in terms of, let's say, the Dark Knight. They have these individual issues you can go buy. I'm not a comic guy myself, but I know you can buy the individual issues, and then they'll collect them all into one larger issue. that they'll sell you, and that's got, say, maybe 10 or 20 or whatever issues of the individual comic in it. So yeah, you can take one of those issues, pull it out and read it. But notice if you do that, unless it's a multi-parter, we're not talking about part one, part two, but we're talking about standalone issues that are later collected into a large volume. You can take one of those standalone issues out and read it by itself. And you can also insert it in the large volume and read it with all the other stories. So let's say you have been writing on a story or a novel or something for years, and you're like, man, I wish I could use that in this class. Well, you probably can. All I would ask you to do is, if you're going to take an excerpt from that and use it for your flash writing, that you shape it and sculpt it in such a way that I, as a reader, can feel a sense of story or completeness or whatever it looks like for your particular genre of writing. I will feel that at the end of reading it. Now, no, that's very subjective. That's why I say we're not going to fetishize success in here, because it's sometimes hard to define, especially in something like flash writing. So it's going to be a challenge, but I hope it's going to be a fun challenge for you. The challenge being to come up with a final draft of whatever you write that gives the reader a sense of completion and a whole piece, and yet meets the constraints of the limited amount of words. That's a challenge, I think. I mean, I know it is because I do it. I love flash writing, and it's one reason I had the idea for this class. So I don't want to be too rambly, so I guess I'll call it there. I just wanted you to get a feel for the personality of the person behind this class. As you can see, I'm not very uptight. I'm open-minded. I like people trying things. So anything you want to try this semester, and you're like, that's a little outlandish creatively. Like, I don't know if that's going to work. Try it. Why not? Keep in mind that I'm open-minded like that and creative, and I encourage you to be open-minded and creative also. Let's not think of this as a fill-in-the-blanks college class, but more of just an adventure of experimentation in writing together. I think that'd be fun. So reach out to me with questions, and even though we're getting a late start, I think we're going to have some great times, and I'll talk to you more later.